Hello there, I'm Janet, and today I am going to be trying 2 new food experiments using wild edibles. Both of these recipes are for butters that you can use to put on bread, you can use to put on meats. I'm going to be using these to put on chicken today. So the first one involves garlic scapes, and these are the top part with the little flower that grows at the top of your garlic, or wild garlic. Now you can cut them off a lot farther down, but I wasn't sure when I was picking these, and I was on a trail where I didn't have phone reception to look it up. So I've got these wild garlic scapes that we're going to use. They've been washed and dried. And I also have these new growths that grow at the end of your pines, and they are more tender than your pine needles, so they're a little easier to chop. So we're going to make a second recipe using those. Now the recipe for the garlic scapes comes from Teresa at Old Ways Gardening and Prepping. The recipe for these, I randomly found instructions for how to do it yesterday on my phone, but I can't find them again today. So I'm really just making it up anyway. I just know that pine butter is a thing. I'm taking Teresa's recipe that we use for the garlic scapes and basically trying to replicate it with the pine needles. Those will also go on chicken today. So you'll need a few things. You'll need either a food processor or a chopper like this. I'm using the chopper because I don't have a lot of either of the herbs. And I don't feel like they'll do very well in my food processor. I don't think there'll be enough. So you need a food processor. You need a bowl. You need some very, very, very softened butter. I left these out overnight. You need something to measure your butter and your chopped herbs. Probably a spatula to get the stuff out of the chopper, a spoon to mix the butter and the herbs together, and your herbs. So let's get started. First thing we're going to do is we're going to put the garlic scapes into the chopper, and we'll see how they do. Again, I've never done this before, so this is an experiment. And I did harvest these ethically, just in case you were concerned. What I did to make sure that there are plenty of garlic scapes left to be able to reproduce next year, to spread seeds or whatever. Every time I found a group of 5 garlic scapes or more, I would take 1. If there were more than 10 garlic scapes, I would take 2, sometimes 3. But if there was just 1 garlic scape by itself or another one a ways away, I wouldn't take any. That way there's plenty for animals to eat, plenty of seeds to spread, and I'm not really having a deep effect on the ecosystem. And I did the same with the pine needles, but I have to tell you, these were a special treat to me because I'm really short. And finding any part of a pine that I can reach is definitely not a normal thing for me. So I picked the ones that I could reach, but again, sparingly so that it didn't affect the tree's growth. I also grabbed some needles. I'm going to use those for teas. But anyway, let's get started. So we've got the garlic scapes inside the food processor. I will mute this while I turn on the food processor because it's loud and annoying. Now I'm gonna spread that out. You didn't chop it the best. Ooh, but it smells amazing. Not sure how you're supposed to do it when you have this small of amount. Ooh, it reminds me a little bit of onion, how smelling it makes you cry. All right, back to chopping. Well, unfortunately, this is probably as good as I'm going to be able to get the garlic scapes cut up. So this one will only be able to be used for meats, because this would absolutely not work for garlic bread. Way too big of chunks. So I'm going to scrape it out and into, oh, I need to measure it. So I'm going to put it in the measuring cup, because you're going to use equal amounts of the garlic scapes and the butter. So tossing this in, seeing how much it fills, and the answer is probably an 1/8 of a cup. It didn't make much at all. But that's okay. There's lots of other garlic scapes out there in nature. I can totally do this again, and it'll definitely be easier when you have a bit more. So, tossing those in the bowl. Now, if this is 1/2 cup, oh God, nobody told me I was gonna have to do math for this, right? All right, this is 1/2 cup. We need an 1/8 a cup, so that would be 1/4 of this. I need a knife to cut that off, don't I? No, I'm not going to use a knife. So, what I'm gonna do is cut it off. Toss it in the bowl, and we're just gonna stir it around a while. Make sure that all of the garlic gets mixed into the butter. It would be great if this were more softened. But I have the air conditioning on in my house, so unfortunately, it's just gonna be like this. Oh wow, look at that. I think I'm actually gonna need a little more butter, I think, for it. It doesn't, sorry, I didn't realize you couldn't see it. So it's really garlicky and not very buttery. Let's put a bit more in there. Teresa may tell me I'm wrong, but that's okay, I'm just trying it. We'll see what happens when I add a little more. And we want to make sure all of this gets nice and mixed in, so every bite of this has garlic, every bite of this has butter. Ooh, I have to put it down though, that hurts my arm to hold it up and do that. Alright, so now we've got our garlic butter, sorry for the crash. And we'll call this good enough. So let me make the pine butter, and then I will, and then we'll put this on the chicken. So look, every recipe that I make for chicken involves both garlic and rosemary. And basically, we're kind of using the pine needles in place of rosemary. So I'm gonna be honest, I'm not gonna wash this out. I'm just gonna reuse it so it has a garlic pine flavor. And because I'm lazy and I don't wanna wash dishes more than I have to. Okay. These are nice and clean, they're washed, they're dried. Probably should have cut them a little bit, but we'll see how they do. Not well, so we're gonna go ahead and cut those up. Let me get a cutting board and a knife. So I'll try this again. Dump these out on my cutting board, which you can't see. Let me move it over here. And I'm just gonna chop these a bit so that they are in smaller pieces, easier for the chopper to handle. Oh, Don't worry, I really just got my nail. I didn't go through any skin. I'm not bleeding. I felt it, but it didn't pierce the skin. All right, so now we've got our fur. Now we've got our shoots chopped up a bit. Gonna try this again. Oh, it helps if you put in the chopping part. This is not my day. Shoot. Now I'm going to get another bowl. And we'll dump this. We'll dump this in the bowl. This time I'm not measuring because it's going to be less than 1/8 of a cup. And so I'm just gonna put in a little bit of butter at a time until it looks like it's like half and half. You can see it got chopped up a little better. And we are going to use our handy dandy knife. Take a chunk of butter. Ooh, somehow I got grass on my face. Well, probably not grass, probably pine. Oh, I need a spoon. 1 second. Okay, this is not going to be enough butter. Let's put a bit more in. Okay. See how that does. Yeah, this is much better. Whew. Still hard to mix, so I'm going to put in just a little bit more butter. Well, okay, I got more than a little, but I think that'll be about right. All right, so I'm gonna pause this video for a minute and we're gonna get the chicken ready and then I'll be back. So the first thing we're going to do, now this isn't necessary because you could just put the butter on the chicken and you could just bake it. I don't like baked chicken that much. I mean, it's okay, but baked chicken breasts are just really not my favorite. Instead, I fry them in a skillet in strips. So I'm going to cut these into strips. Yes, I'm using the same knife. It's fine if it gets a little pine on it. This will be the one that has the pine butter. Easy peasy. Also, I'm gonna rinse these off because if you put the butter on them when they're really cold, fresh from the refrigerator, your butter gets extra hard and it won't really spread. So before I do anything else, I'm going to take these chicken breasts slices and I'm gonna run them under warm water for a few just to raise their temperature so it's a little easier to spread the butter. So strips are about that big. They don't have to be, you can do it any way that you want. This is just the way I like to cook these. So let me go warm them up. Okay, so I ran the chicken breasts strips under some warmer water. They're not ice cold, they're not really warm. They're somewhere in between, but they're warm enough that it won't make the butter do anything crazy. So first of all, we're going to do the garlic. So basically, I'm going to take some of the butter. I'm going to rub it. It may still be too cool, but I'm gonna rub it on the chicken as best as I can. Both sides. Figure we'll use this whole thing today. So I'm not really worried about the hygiene of it too much. And I put it in here. They're going to marinate in here for about, it'll be about an hour, I think, by the time I have to start getting food ready for my husband. So again, we're just putting it on the chicken breast strips. I'm going to put it on the other side in the container, making sure it's got a little bit of time to absorb some more of the flavor. Does it need to have this much butter on it? Probably not. Do I care? Definitely not. I always want more flavor rather than less. I mean, within reason. Garlic can be a little bit overwhelming. So, and I'm just gonna use all of this up and then I'll do the rest with the pines. Okay, we'll put that down in here. More butter on top. Now for the next ones, I'll only have to put the butter on one side because they're going to be up against the other strips that already have the butter on them. So that's a little easier. Maybe. We'll see. Sometimes the best you can do is really just to lay it on there. That's life though. Okay. Oh, and toss that in. I think we've got enough for one or maybe two more. Okay, put that against the next. Yeah, one more, a little one. Okay, we'll get it off the back of the spoon. Okay, and we're tossing this one in. Now we've got the garlic part done. I'll put a lid on that, put it in the fridge for the next hour, and let me wash my hands and I'll be back to try the pines. Okay, and first and foremost, I'm going to put quite a bit of this in a container that will be put in the freezer for later. So I've got just a little bit, which I think that's still going to be more than I need. So I'm going to put this in the container for the freezer. All right, Now we'll try it with this. So we're basically just doing the same thing, only we're going to do it a little more thinly because I'm not as sure about the pine needles as I am about garlic. Garlic's always good. There's never a need to doubt your garlic. Your garlic's always going to be good. So doing the same thing, putting some on the top half. All right. Next one is a long one. So now we've got our chicken ready. We're going to take out some of the butter, put it in the bottom of the pan. Do this with another chunk, and let's do one more. We're gonna start by melting that butter. Let's grab another chunk or two. I'm also adding another piece of butter without the garlic. And once that is melted, we're going to toss in our chicken strips. There we go. We're going to turn the heat up. There we are. Now, when the pieces of chicken are almost cooked through, like this one, for example, we're going to flip it over. We're going to let them brown on the other side. Now we're going to look and see if they're brown on this side. Nope, not really. So we'll cook them a little longer. Now a couple of these are brown on the other side. So we'll flip them over, let them get a little bit brown on the second side, and then they'll be ready to eat. And then when they're done on the second side, you take them out. They're ready to serve. And I'm doing the same thing with the chicken with the pine needle butter. We'll see how they taste. So I realized that I forgot to record an ending to that video. My husband, he had to be at work about an hour early today, and so I was rushing to get dinner done. But we did eat both types of the chicken, and honestly, my favorite was the pine. The chicken with the garlic scapes was also really good. I would suggest putting more salt and more of the butter in. I ended up like melting some butter, more of the pine butter and some more of the garlic butter, and putting them over the chickens because there just wasn't enough in the pan with them. But delicious overall. You should totally try it and tell me how it goes.